It's 11:59 at Radio Free America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the walls. The chair is against the walls. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
All right, welcome everybody. We're trying to do a show here to talk about H.R. 8 and H.R. 1112, which are, I think, being voted on tomorrow. So we went live earlier today. Pink Panther posted on the Gun Channel's main news feed about the House discussing H.R. 8, and I decided to check that out. I decided to check that out. And it turned out it was already the second committee debating it, or whatever that would be called, talking about it, and then voting on it. And it took about 2 hours. They talked about it for most of that time, and then they voted at it right at the end. And they voted to pass it through to the full House. And that's what we're going to try to talk about tonight. And I guess I'm going to close this out of here. Background. That open, and then we'll screen capture here. There we go. So we'll try to figure this all out. Now, Night Strike was listening. Sarge, got Night Strike and Sarge joining us here. Night Strike's South Carolina. Sarge is North Carolina. Were you guys watching the House coverage, I guess, earlier today?
I was there with you today, remember?
Not everybody else in the watching is, so that's what I'm asking. Sarge,
no, I was not able to watch it.
Okay, so
I'm trying to catch up on that overview right now.
Yeah, don't watch our show or my show from this channel, because I was just talking the whole time and yelling and screaming and everything. So, yeah, so it's not worth listening here, but you can watch it on there. The House. What is this? This was the
House Rules.
So it's House Rules is the YouTube channel. If you go to my Gun Websites channel and look earlier today, I have a link to it there, so you can get the link to it and watch it, raw, and you'll see all the comments, because they, at least during the show, they had comments going, and you could see the negative comments they were getting. They had about 60-something people watching it live, so it's kind of weird. Anyhow, if Night Strike, if you can remember, am I crazy, or did they say they're voting on this tomorrow?
No, they said. Well, I don't think they were saying they were voting on it tomorrow. I was saying they said they were sending it to the floor tomorrow. So that though you would assume they would vote on it, but maybe they're just trying to put amendments onto it first and then vote on it.
No, they can't be doing that, because that's what they voted on today. Was not putting amendments on it. Definitely.
They wouldn't allow any amendments on it whatsoever. We're not willing to compromise. You either take our stuff or you don't. You go home and you go home with your ball. That's what they were like today.
No, that's not. What are you talking about? They were definitely not taking anything, but they were not saying go home with your ball. They were saying be happy with the fact we're only taking this much of your cake, because we want all your cake. We think we're being open-minded by letting you keep some of your cake, but we want it all, and we're taking this big a bite. They didn't say nothing about go home with your ball. They were like, go home with half your cake and be happy with it. Except it's not even a half. They really
half.
That's their form of compromise as well. We want all of it, but we're just going to let you keep half and try to make you feel good about it.
That's a good way of saying it, exactly.
Yeah, but the Democrats have lost compromise. When you compromise, you're supposed to give something, and then you're supposed to take something. They're only taking, period.
Yeah. So they weren't even suggesting, be happy about it. They were like, we're going to take it all eventually. Be happy we're only taking this much now, but get ready for us to take more. This is the first step of more to come. Probably next time. I'm pretty sure he said, next time.
That's mental abuse.
Huh?
That's mental abuse is what that is. They're trying to make someone feel good about losing something and make you feel like you're getting a good deal. That's mental abuse.
Okay.
And then throw in that caveat in there that we're going to get all of it eventually. You just be happy with what we're letting you keep right now. That's mental abuse.
when can we charge these people with treason?
Come on.
I don't know.
Night strike, leave if you're going to be weird. I mean, it's tomorrow, and I don't have any interest at all in shaking my fucking fist at the sky. So we're going to try to figure out if it actually is tomorrow and what we can do besides just write letters, or where at least we should write those letters, and hopefully something constructive. In past shows,
okay.
I wouldn't be doing this if it was just every single time it happens, we're going to get up and say the exact same thing. You know what that is? That's exploiting the situation. That's if you do the exact same thing every time we're attacked, then you're not fighting. You're not trying to find strategy. You're not trying to find alternative ways of accomplishing our goal. We're simply exploiting the situation. There's no possible way I'm going to participate in that. So I'm going to ask you as politely as possible, don't reiterate anything obvious. I'm just not in the mood. I tried to do a daily gun show. Nobody showed up. I want to do something about this. So I'm going to do it on a bigger channel, and I don't like just talking. I don't like getting on these things and just going live. So I really appreciate you guys jumping in, and I didn't want to jump on you, but I'm just not in the mood. So I'm going to try to find out if HR 8 is actually being voted on tomorrow, or you had a good point. It might just be going to the House tomorrow, in which case we got a minute to start figuring out something. But seriously, I know this is midnight or whatever time later for everybody. I don't even know how many people are watching this right now. 18 people. I know you people give a shit, but how do we stop this same old from happening every time around? And this is something that, I know about HR 8, I know about 112, and I know about all the other stuff they talk about on FPC, but how do we clear the pipes? How do we blow the whistle? If, there's a lot of commotion going on, there's got to be something that can be done to say, this is imminent, this is tomorrow. So I'm gonna go look.
I'm sorry, I'm just angry at the situation.
We all are. So it looks like if you go to FPC and you click on Take Action, they have moved HR 112 to the top, which wasn't even on their site earlier. They don't have HR 8. They have it right here, but there's nothing in here that makes it more urgent about tomorrow or anything. So do you guys know what 112 and 8?
Did you check Congress.gov?
No, because I did actually. I was just over here, and it's all bullshit. They don't even have the summary of 8 up yet. So Sarge, we're saying 8 and 112, and if you didn't watch 2 hours of it earlier, are you familiar with these two?
I'm looking up 8. That's the background checks.
8 is universal background checks, and they're giving it the propaganda name of Bipartisan Background Check Act of 2019. It couldn't be more blatant propaganda with 5 Republicans for them to suggest this is bipartisan. They somehow didn't choke on the words 90% of Americans want universal background checks. They said that about 100 times, and their faces didn't fall off, and they didn't choke on their tongues. So somehow they can just keep saying that. But yeah, this is the Background Check Act, which would create background checks on everything except for, in other words, every transfer of a firearm except for parents to children and vice versa, grandparents and uncles and cousins. So that's the amount of the family, just your immediate cousins, or your immediate family, cousins and grandparents. And then if you're hunting if you're hunting, then a friend can borrow a gun, and it's vague. But there's very little other things in there, that every single transaction. So they brought up things like if you're a ranch hand and you're in your company's vehicle, that would require a transfer and a 3-day waiting period, depending on your state. So
if they were a ranch hand and there was this stuff goes with the truck, this right. Rifle for shooting the coyotes and this stuff.
Correct.
If
you got in an airplane but had that stuff as part of the kit, then you'd have to literally take a chance. Use it. Yeah, that's how the law was written, because that's some of the things that they tried to amend it with, and they took all those off and said, you're lucky we're allowing you to own semi-autos and high-capacity magazines. This is the step that we've compromised, and we're not going to take any exceptions to it. We've already got too many exceptions in it.
They have got to realize that this tool is not the problem. The tool is used, but it's the people operating the tool that are the problem, and they are in such a small number.
I believe that their position would be that by removing firearms from law-abiding citizens, they are not available to be stolen. That would be they don't voice it that way, but that's the only
I know, but it's
understand.
just.
And then they did have a couple of people bring up that there's many people that are affected by this that have nothing to do with the crime that they're trying to prevent, which is, mass murders, atrocities that are politically motivated and use a firearm. But since those have nothing in common with the people that are going to be affected by this stage of universal background check, their appeal that this isn't going to solve the issues that they're trying to prevent with the law was laughed off, and said that this is a necessary first step for the removal of semi-automatic firearms, high-capacity magazines, and that's going to eventually solve the problem. They kept saying that just one life justification.
Yeah. And they also got very quiet when asked that, there are already laws on the books that they aren't enforcing that would prevent this, and why aren't they trying to get those laws enforced? They got really quiet when someone asked that.
In fact, they wouldn't allow an amendment which would require that they count how many times the current 4473's denials lead to actual criminal conviction, or at least even investigation or anything. So they wanted to start tallying that as one of the amendments to this, and that wasn't even allowed. Neither was the idea of someone who's not just a victim of domestic abuse, but someone who's gone to get a restraining order against an abuser. They would not be they would also not be able to accept a firearm from anyone without a 4473 and a transfer through an FFL. So they have no interest in actually doing anything. This is, again, it couldn't have been more, literally stated that this was a first step towards a larger goal, a larger agenda, and that this was necessary to create a start in common sense prohibitions, or whatever they said. So the 8, though, if you remember, HR 8 is the background check. So just think of 8 looking like a B, looks like bipartisan background checks. And the 112 is the messing with the 4473s, basically. So mandatory background check for unlicensed transactions. I don't know why they're calling it that, because it is actually the change in the 3-day to 10 days, and change in the 30 days to 60 days. No, actually, they wanted to change that. They didn't allow. But it's basically the 3 days that the FBI is allowed to, research 4473. And if they aren't able to research anything, or if they aren't able to come up with a conclusion that this person is prohibited within 3 business days, then the transaction goes through. Somehow, without any justification with numbers, they suggest that this is a loophole, and that number needs to be changed from 3 to 10 business days, which in some states, I guess if you do the math, depending on if you did it on a certain day with holidays and stuff, because of 4473 only lasts 30 days, it's possible for certain states it's almost impossible to purchase a firearm if they decided to go to the longest amount of times. So anyway, they suggest that the 3 days and the firearm transaction goes through is somehow an opportunity for criminals, and they used some stats, some numbers that were, not backed up with anything, and suggested that this was also necessary. And this one had very little resistance, unfortunately, other than the plea that it's unnecessary. There was very little resistance, I remember, specifically to 112, or at least trying to put amendments on it. Either way, this one was passed, HR 8 was passed, and then the other one was challenging Trump's concept that the wall is an emergency action or something. So they're going to pass some kind of House thing that says the president can't make emergencies or something. I don't know what that one said. They only talked about that one for like the last 5 minutes and passed it immediately, right?
Yeah.
So like you said, looking at Congress, .gov, Bill HR 8. I don't know. What am I supposed to look at here? I got the
text.
actions. Well, the text just tells us the text of it. That doesn't tell us where it's at. Right?
Well, it also depends on if they send it to the House tomorrow. Then it depends on how many bills the House has to go through tomorrow. It might not even get heard tomorrow. It might not get it heard for several days.
I don't think that's the way they were talking about it, though. That guy said, like, the reason they blew off 90 amendments to this was because they needed it to go through tomorrow, right? That it was going to go through today.
Which means they're trying to fast track this without due process.
Let's say 25th. Well, that's what that one guy challenged it with. His thing was that this was a sloppily written bill with too many vague areas, and that they didn't allow enough. They blew off all the suggested amendments to it as superfluous, whatever the hell word they used, and they basically denied his concern, or whatever the official words would be. But they basically told him, yeah, we don't care. We wanted it done by today, so we're getting it done by today.
Yeah, and I especially didn't like how they pretty much, shrugged off all of Congresswoman Lesko's amendments.
Yes, that was the lady from Arizona. She had a bunch of good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Well, I don't know how to read this. So I would think that it would be like actions or something, and under actions.
You can switch it to all actions to see where it is. All right.
So today's the 25th, though. So none of this stuff is accurate because they already were talking about it today. So it's not like our government's going to update their own website within 8 hours. So does anybody else know where to get updates on this? Lockjaw is saying 231 co-sponsors for HR 815 for 231 co-sponsors means that
literally half the House, or more than half the House.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot, right?
Yeah.
Go to house.gov. Have a wrench. Be some votes. Oh, look at this. What the hell? I went to this for. Okay, here we go. The Committee on Rules will meet on February blah, 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 and capital on these measures. We already know this. So, yes. Amendment deadline, meeting information. So they still haven't updated this one either, because they're just talking about it today. What do you think? They're going to put it, they're not even going to have the thing updated, and they're already going to be voting on it tomorrow without the website updated? You think I don't know, I haven't really paid attention enough in the past.
Would they do something like that? Yes, they would, just to get to see their stuff get through.
Oh, I guess I can go like this. It's 26. There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, look, I'm figuring out how to use the website. So, future of ARPA, state of water supply, nobody cares about any of this shit. Eye of the summit, HR, something, blah, 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 EPA, blah, 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 makeup, and Euro, global crisis. Holy shit, that's a global crisis. No, it doesn't have nothing about it tomorrow. Most recent for floor. Watch most recent House floor activity.
Here's something at 2 p.m. INF withdrawal and the future of arms control, implication for the security of the United States and its allies.
Where's that one?
2 p.m.
Tomorrow?
Yeah. Or today. I'm on the 26th today. You're still on 25th, I know. But
what's INF?
International
withdrawal and the future of arms control, implications of security of the United States and its allies. Committee on Armed Services, Subcommittee for Strategic Forces.
They might throw that in there to put people off.
I don't want a lobbying job. There's people that do lobby and they're better at it, and they do it. I just want people to know info, right? So we can do something about it. HR will probably pass in the House. The Senate is where it needs to be stopped. Well, I don't know. I thought the Senate is already left.
They're not in session right now, are they?
Well, they're in session at the same time, aren't they?
Sure.
Click on each bill. Yeah, I think I did. So here's the video of that hearing today, I guess. This is what we watched earlier. Just about 2 hours of it. Sarge, you're oh, you still here?
Yeah, he's working on something. Sarge?
Got us muted.
Sarge? But
continued in session till after 9 o'clock at night. Made clear at all times.
Amendment deadline. 20th.
Yeah.
All right, John's saying about this attached bill, Background Check Expansion Act, S42. Hey, Sarge, you listening?
I'm in. I'm just listening.
So take a look at this guy, and you've got some experience looking at people and reading them. I'm just curious what you think of this guy's demeanor.
Times that we were prepared to hear amendments to priority orders, we're prepared to block vote them, prepared to do anything to expedite the process. We did it. We did make clear that we wanted to finish consideration in day. When the chairman,
Let me know whenever you got enough of this.
Yeah, I believe that he's done this before. He's done it again, and it's not worked either time.
Something about his touching his face so much, and the way that when he would get kind of, I don't know if he even got grilled. He would get like questions, and he would answer like for long periods of time like this. And I don't know anything about it except to know that there's something weird about this, right? I was looking online, and it says it can be an indication of fear or like arrogance or something. I don't know. Do you get any kind of read off of this guy?
Is it uncomfortableness? Like he's trying to convince you this is going to work, but it really doesn't work ever?
He's trying to.
Well, no, the thing is what he's saying here is like, you know,
if he was arrogant, I think his head would be up and it would be leaning towards you telling it. He's off to the side, almost kind of defeated, but yet still going through the motion.
And he does look fatigued and kind of, yeah, I don't know the guy at all. I don't know if this is just the way he talks all the time or something. It's just something about it. And we had to sit here watching the guy. He was one of the prominent people for this whole thing. The whole time, touching his face the whole time. It just drives me nuts.
Yeah. That guy was pretty good, though.
This guy is hardcore anti-2A. Yep, for sure. Trying to hide behind his hand. Just go all the way down. It says amended and not amended.
Sarge, do you think those hand motions and the way he was doing that during the whole procession, do you think that may be because he was embarrassed to be there?
I don't think he wanted to be there. I don't think he wanted to be there. He was, because like I said, the hand on the head. That's an indication that things aren't going well.
Would you think of it as a good sign for us then, or a bad sign for us?
What was his context of his statements?
Well, like I said,
Anti.
definitely anti, but actually the specifics when he would hold his head like that, like hold his kind of the most, where he was saying, this isn't even as much as we wanted. Like they were basically suggesting like amendments that would loosen it up for, like, let's say a domestic abuse victim, and he would
that's
be like,
the guy that's trying to convince you that this is a good deal, or not taking as much as we want.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, be happy with what you
He
get.
has no confidence.
We want it all. Okay,
he
good.
has no confidence.
Okay, well, I'm definitely good here. Glad to hear that.
That's a defeated posture, leaned over, elbow on the table, in a setting like that. That's a defeated posture.
Even though he's the chairman of that committee.
Yeah, he's just the chairman. They got stuck having to do this, and like I said, I'm not going to go through what he read. We're just going to base it off that.
Okay, well, that's all.
He's trying to sell you, and I mean, how would you sell someone? You would sell someone like this. You're going to lean forward.
Yeah.
You're going to cross the fingers. You're going to look official. You may even give it this number, where you get the fingers going in the PowerPoint here, and we're going to talk, and we're going to make things happen. And I'm going to bring you into it, where you're going to bring me into it. We're going to get this stuff done. This guy over here, who's reading it to you, he ain't that guy.
Okay, well, that's good to hear, because then we had him, and then we had cloth talkers, people that, even with microphones, you couldn't barely hear them. And then you had a guy who was almost crying. Like, he could barely keep his composure. He was so frustrated. And he was like, yeah, I agree with this guy. You should be happy that we're giving you this much, because we want it all. I got the impression from, again, not being able to read that as much or having any kind of experience reading that kind of stuff, that they were arrogantly confident and like,
now,
probably so. At least
they could have been arrogantly reading it, but there'd have been the nose, like it's just like a figure of speech. It would have been up higher in the air, and they would have been looking down on you. Their heads were like down and down to here. Their heads were down. They weren't looking down on anybody. So I think they're kind of defeated. But it is closely related to the arrogant looking down your nose. And
then this was also the guy who claimed that the reason they had to stop taking, or the reason they fast forwarded and quit taking any kind of considerations for the amendments, is because it was got to be 7 p.m.
Yeah, they couldn't work after 7 p.m.
It was already almost 7 p.m. Like, oh my goodness. I think somebody had said during the show, like, it's only your job to be there.
It's like, what, you guys can't work overtime like the rest of us?
Oh, Ghost just woke up, so he'll be spitting and ready to go. Wonder if he heard about the stuff earlier. So we saw the attached bill, which John posted here, which was this. Does it have a summary for what this is all about? Doesn't look very long.
And that's the problem. It's not very long, but it's too broad, so it can be interpreted too many ways.
I think this is just the Senate bill. This is just the Senate version. The other one we were looking at is HR. So we're at Congress, but we're looking at Senate Bill 42.
Okay,
so
yeah.
This looks like their version of it, I guess. Right. So Ghost just jumped in. Did you get a chance to see the live stuff that we were chatting about here?
Very briefly, but like the last 5 or 10 minutes. But yeah, I'm kind of caught up on what the bills are here.
Now, are you more aware than us of, like, happen to be more aware of us than on the website where we would find out the status or the most updated current status of these things?
I do know that they have 12, the time might be different, but I think it's 12 hours from the adjournment of the committee meeting to update the website, and it's usually on congress.gov, and it'll be under the summary. And they have it might be 10 hours, it might be 24 hours, but I think it's like 12 hours. They have a definite amount of time by a law that they have to update that website. But it'll be in congress.gov. You would search the HR bill or the Senate bill, and under the general tab, I believe it's a general tab, it should give you a summary of the latest updates.
So it was have to wait. So it looks like, at least according to their schedule for tomorrow, it's not already on the list. So maybe we missed.
Unfortunately, they can add that at any time.
Oh, really? Okay. Because it sounded, I got the, maybe I guess we could watch it, but it's sitting right here. I got the impression, though, that it was, where the hell the video at? We got the impression that they said, we need to get this over there tomorrow so we can vote on it. Get it over to the Senate.
You know, they can introduce it to the floor tomorrow anytime, and it'd still be on the agenda. As long as they get the, you know, someone to say, okay, then we have the vote, it's been ratified from the committee, and it's ready now for a floor vote, they could technically, the speaker, which is obviously Pelosi, could schedule that vote pretty much anytime she feels like it now.
It's a one that's released to the House. It's sort of like in their whatever list, and then they get to decide when, and like, oh, we're going to do it right now, or we'll do that whenever we feel like it. Like, it's up to the Senate.
I mean, technically, it's up to the speaker at this point. She could literally schedule that vote anytime she wants.
So I'm trying to figure out what DTP is saying here, because I wasn't watching as Sarge was talking. Why would he feel defeated, I guess, if he knows he has the votes to pass it? They know they have enough votes in the House to not even consider any amendments, so that seems contradictory. If I think he's saying, if the guy was looking defeated, then he would look defeated because he knows he doesn't have enough votes in the House. I think that's what DTP is saying. But then
are you talking about the guy that was reading the bills in the committee?
Maybe I was asking Sarge a minute ago, right before he jumped in, about the
chairman.
Well, I don't know if it was the chairman. It was definitely one of the guys in charge. Maybe it was the chairman, but anyway, it was one of the antis, and he was just holding his head the whole time in such a weird way, like he couldn't get his hand off of his forehead.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
and that just something about that made me wonder, and I went online, and it just gave me kind of, online vague what that meant. So I was just better at reading body language.
You also have to understand these guys are trained in body language, so just because you see a certain body language from a congressman or senator doesn't necessarily mean anything. To me, what I got is he was so laid back, at least the snippet that I saw earlier today, he was so laid back and so nonchalant. What that tells me is he's not worried about a damn thing. It's going through.
That's the impression that I was getting too, but I don't know, like you say, if that's posturing, is that the word? Or it's like theater, like you say, they definitely know, and who knows what kind of strategy they've got, right?
Yeah, I took it as there was no reason for him to get excited. There was no reason for him to do anything. It was, we got this in the bag, at least in the House side. We got this in the bag. Let's just go through the motions here. That's how I read it, but I might be wrong.
I was certainly feeling it, and I don't want to be alarmist or like get played or whatever. But I also don't know the terrain. So do we know anybody? Right. The only person I can think of would be Craig and some of the main players who watch the stuff in a big enough perspective that they know all the senators and stuff. I mean, I don't have a grasp other than if they're Democrat or Republican, what they probably will do, since we know there's only 5 Republicans willing to vote for it. But
that's the whole point of this. Is the ironic thing is they call this the bipartisan background or whatever, and there's 5 freaking Republicans. I mean, so technically, I guess it is bipartisan, but come on,
Yeah, seriously. So I don't know what the deal is. If that 5, I don't know the numbers. Does that 5 mean it's passing, like that's enough, like it's 50-50, and with those 5 it's a no-brainer? Or is it like with those 5 it might, and they're in danger, we should be
No, what that means is that those 5 Republicans are co-sponsoring the bill. They got 5 Republicans to co-sponsor the bill. That's why they're calling it bipartisan.
Okay, and we assume they're going to vote for it, but I guess we don't know for certain until they
I would imagine so, yeah.
I hope there's 5 people out there, constituents from those 5 people, giving them the business, because what the hell? How do we figure out who they are?
Yeah, I would. Well, it should be. You should be able to find that information on the sponsors.
It'll be on the list
It should be in the text part. It'll find out who the sponsors are on the text side of things.
Well, this one has 232. I guess this is the one with the Republicans, though, huh?
Yeah, but you'll be able to go through there and at least find Republicans. There they are.
Republican King from New York. Fitzpatrick from Pennsylvania. Pancakes is responsible for that one. Mast from Florida. Upton from Michigan. So thanks to everybody from Michigan. And then Smith from New Jersey. So thanks to Tony for that one.
It's usual suspects.
Michigan's relatively surprising, unless that's the Detroit sector of Michigan, probably.
Probably, but still. Souls. How many Democrats are there? Is this every one of them? 227?
I don't remember the numbers right now. After the midterms, I don't remember, but I can't imagine there being very many Democrats that are not on that.
Actually, that part of Michigan is the 6th congressional district. That's the Kalamazoo area.
So we got Raul Grijalva, fucking asshole from Tucson. Got Ruben, I don't know how to say his name, someplace. Got Greg Stanton, Tom Old something or another, and Ann Kirkpatrick. One of the assholes in Arizona voted for it. Or co-sponsored it, I guess.
And they're all Democrats, I'm assuming?
They're all
or they
Democrats.
Yeah. But still. Grijalva
yeah.
from Tucson. Let's see. You got any? You're clear. I don't see any Arkansas. Do you even have Democrats in Arkansas?
A couple, but they don't. They wouldn't dare do this.
Yeah, they
I
did.
should say that.
And then what we got? North Carolina. Do you see that one in here? Oh yeah, you got 3 of them. Democrats. South Carolina in here.
Yeah.
I was interested. I must have missed Sarge's. I'm sorry to backtrack, but I'd be interested to hear what Sarge thought about body language. I mean, my reading people and his reading people come from different backgrounds, but I'd be interested to see what he thought about, reading his body language.
What I watch is there's no excuse for the way he was leaned over with his head on his hand like that. That he obviously didn't care, and I don't think he felt real confident in what he was doing. Like he was just going through the motions. I could be wrong, but that's the way I felt. Because even if you're confident, you're going to be up and you're going to be talking to people. You got to have the hand gestures and the power fingers where they're talking and waiting and everything. But his thing off to the side, and it's just like kind of going through the motions. I wasn't feeling a whole lot of confidence there.
I didn't know with being master manipulators, could that have been a ploy possibly, or what do you think?
I think no matter what, you got to put out the air of confidence.
I agree with that.
No matter what.
But again, even if this goes through the House and gets voted on, it still has to get through the Senate. And while I'm not optimistic, but I'm not, saying that it's the end of the world. They may not get it through the Senate, regardless.
Well, even if they get to the Senate, he has to sign it, and if he vetoes it, I don't think they have 2/3 majority to override the veto.
They don't. So, but again, it is alarming that this is happening right now.
The scary thing is, I mean, this is, maybe I'm just the optimist, and I know a lot of people get pissed off at me because I'm ultimately the optimist, but I don't think it gets to the Senate. But here's the scary thing. If it does somehow get through the Senate, I think Trump signs it. And the only reason why I do is his mindset's going to be, well, it got through both houses of Congress. I might as well go ahead and sign it. That's what scares me. I don't think it gets through Senate, but if it does, I don't think he vetoes it. That's my worry.
So according, I just went online, it says 35, whatever. There's 470 seats in the Congress, 35 in the Senate, 435 in the House. The Democrats won control of the House, and the Republicans retained control of the Senate. So Republicans have control of the Senate. So you guys are.
Does it say how many Democrats are now in the House?
I'm just looking at stupid YouTube here, or I mean Google.
Because I think there were 239 Democrats that signed that bill, or have sponsored the bill.
Yeah, 232 out of, what did I say, 240? I just closed out of there. Looks like we got 197 Republicans and 235 Democrats.
So only 3 Democrats didn't help sponsor that bill.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And 5 Republicans helped sponsor that bill. So we're going to subtract 5.
Yeah, so only a couple of 3 Democrats didn't, and 5.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And 5 Republicans did.
Wait, is this the whole Congress or is this the House?
It's just the House.
Oh yeah, House lineup. Okay, yeah. So it's fairly close, but it's off by about 40. So having any Republicans over there doesn't help at all. And then who cares if they didn't have a couple of Democrats? Those could have just whatever voted no or weren't there that day or whatever, right?
Right. So they didn't get a vote.
Well, no, we're not talking votes here. We're talking sponsors. It hasn't been voted on yet.
But what alarms me is
voted on as a committee.
That's true.
Why is there 3 vacancies and they aren't being filled? That's a problem.
No, there's just at this moment there are 3. That's probably 3 people. Well, it says right here, this guy, somebody not certified yet. This guy resigned and this guy died. So sorry, your guy or the Sarge's guy died. That this guy got caught up in a massive pancake scandal. There's like illegal pancakes all over Pennsylvania, and this guy got caught up in it. So he had to resign. And then this other guy in North Carolina is not even certified to be there. And by the time he does
what the hell is going on in North Carolina is what I want to know.
Probably some of they got the pancake pipeline heading straight down from Pennsylvania.
Is that what it is? The Appalachian pancake pipeline?
Yeah.
They have to push them up to the top of the Appalachians, and then they just roll down the other side of the Appalachians.
That's how they become flat.
Yep. All right, well, now we're getting off topic. So Dano is trying to participate, I think, even though he has links and he decides not to jump in. What's the title of the bill? What does that have to do with it? So between the 2 bills, which one is as of today getting all the traction? These are 2 bills that are sort of together. They're being, while they went through the committees at the House together, so they're both about purchasing firearms. And I don't know, they're not technically tied together, but they might as well be, right? So HR 8 is the background checks, the universal background checks, requiring every transaction go through a background check with a 4473. And then the 1112 is the change in the 3-day NICS time to 10 days and the 30 days worth of the 60 days, so or something like that. So they're changing the time frames of the NICS background check. So the 8 is horrible. 8 changes the playing field. All these people that want to talk about civil war will actually have something to complain about if 8 happens. 1112 would be an infringement that would be more subtle, and it would create bureaucracy, and it could be the way of stopping firearms from being transferred by simply not answering the phone. Anytime you give NICS more power, all they have to do is not answer the phone, and guns don't transfer. As soon as they have universal background checks, they just don't answer the phone, and no one can transfer firearms in the entire country. They literally can just turn off NICS's telephones, say that there's a problem, not have enough staff, and no firearms get transferred. I don't know if you've ever bought a gun on a busy time, like any time that's busy, even a Saturday sometimes can be busy, and there's backups. If they require every single transaction to go through NICS, you'll never get a transaction on the same day again.
That's the beautiful thing about the state of Arkansas. There's several other states that do that, but if you have your concealed carry permit, you don't have to go through the background. That's the beautiful thing about it.
Yeah, it's a lot of the southern states that do that.
That's not gonna.
They don't have to. I don't have to go through NICS for my thing because my concealed carry permit acts as my background check.
Yeah, same here.
Did
Same
until
here.
8. Until 8.
Until HR 8, yes.
Yeah, they've already put in there. If you already have a CCW and you don't need a background check, then you should not be whatever. And they said, "Oh no, it's ridiculous. That's not. That's a waste of our time to think about. We're not going to add that amendment."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a state level thing, also.
Was a state
Yes.
level thing up until HR 8. HR 8 changes that. Universal background.
If it
check.
passes, yes.
Universal background checks aren't what we have today. They change it. Yes, if it passes, correct.
Yeah.
All right. So I still don't know what Daniel's trying to say, but he does have links, so you could jump in here. Everybody else who wants to go to gun channels, there's a link over there. They don't have 60 votes in the Senate. Rich is saying they don't have 60 votes in the Senate to pass this. Oh, sounds good.
Don't have to have 60 votes on this one.
I think that if it doesn't get voted on, that we have to worry about tomorrow. I think that anybody who might be watching this that wants to do something that's frustrated, going back and watching some of that video, taking any slice. I mean, you could just slice that thing up and take just about any slice from it, and you'd have lots and lots of potential stuff to talk about. The connotations, the assumptions, the deliberate lies, the allusions to. It was a horrible. If it wasn't so serious a matter, it would be laughable how horrible these guys' speeches were. The antis, at least. I guess we could probably, what do they call it, armchair quarterback some of the pros also. A couple of the guys were outstanding and just gave it to them. That lady from Arizona, holy moly, she was awesome. It would be interesting to do just a look at her interactions. I think she sat down like a pro. She started it out. They were all acting like they were, kind of acting weird. And then wham, she just delivered blow after blow to those guys. And they couldn't do anything except ignore everything she said. But definitely a lot of interesting stuff came up today. And if you're frustrated and you create content and you're ever interested in looking for something or needing something to talk about, I think, like I say, any 5-minute slice out of that 2 hours today, and you're probably going to have pretty decent amount of stuff to talk about. It was tough to watch. There's Dano. What were you talking about, Dano?
I had just heard of this like this evening, so I'm like as far behind the curve as one could be. So that's where all my questions are coming from.
Oh, no worries. Thanks for jumping in then. So I didn't know about this either until Pink posted something on gun channels at like 3 p.m. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go watch this. And it was like half an hour before it even started. So it didn't start till this afternoon. I went live and we all watched it together for, I think it was 2 hours. And it was like an hour and a half worth of a bunch of anti-gunners basically ignoring as much as they could, as blatantly as they could, ignoring all these reasons why the HR 8 and HR 1112 are garbage infringements that do nothing and only persecute law-abiding citizens. And we had to watch that for a couple hours, and at the very end they denied any amendments to the HR 8 or 1112, and then very quickly passed them on to the House, and we've been discovering tonight, attempting to discover the consequence, the progress of that, and like when the actual House is going to vote on it, and we haven't been able to figure that out. We think it's just too soon after it got voted. We won't know till maybe tomorrow or so.
They both successfully passed out of committee. Is that correct?
Yeah, along with the other one that has a weird name, which is basically the objection to Trump using emergency powers from the executive branch to fund anything because the Congress funds.
Okay.
Right.
My next question, and you guys, I realize you've already gone over this, but I'm sure I'm not the only one that's caught
Thanks.
naked in the breeze. Is I know the one is about background checks, and it's what's. I don't want to summarize what I don't know. You tell me what's different about that one, and then tell me what's significantly different about the other one.
Okay, so 8 is universal background checks, except for immediate family. Every transfer of a firearm needs a background check through 4473 through FFL. That's 8. 1112 is changing the NICS to be, instead of a, right now, if you call in and you are either delayed, you'll get or when you are delayed, you'll get 3 business days. The ATF or the FBI actually has 3 business days to continue researching it. And if after 3 days they haven't researched your case to find that you are a criminal, they allow the transaction to proceed.
Mm-hmm.
And this would change that 3 days to 10 days, which has consequences. And then, they see it as a way to stop all crime or whatever. Well, in exaggerating, but they see it as a way to stop just one crime, just one death. And they don't see any cause at all except for minor inconvenience to any gun owner from that. And,
minor thing, but does it
It's a backdoor to a national 10-day waiting period is what it is.
Is it state business versus calendar days?
Business days. And that means that depending on what state you're in and the rules that the states infringe, you could, because the 4473 is only good for 30 days. I guess there are particular places where that could screw you over and you'd have to get.
Remember, G, though, that 30 days turns into 60 days also on this bill.
No. That's not that. That's not how long a 4473 can cook. That's how long the ATF can fiddle with stuff. So it has to do more with how long the ATF keeps your 4473.
For 60 days now, possibly. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just another like, hey, we need more bureaucracy, and if we change something, from 2 pages to 4, then we get to create more printing, more editing, and more storage. So it's more bureaucracy, and I'll make more money. So they see any addition to burden as a more government, more bureaucracy, more stuff.
So it does say business days. Is that correct?
Yeah. And there was very little resistance to that one from what I remember. Everything was against 8, and they basically just took the 1112 up the butt. Nobody even really complained again about it from what I could tell, which was sad because there's plenty of reasons why you can.
So HR 8 takes it up to 10 days, but it's 10 business days.
No, 1112 is 10 days. So think of all those 1s and 10. Think of 8 like the letter B is bipartisan background check. So 8 is background check. 111112 is 10 days from 3. And it doesn't matter because as soon as we remember these, then there'll be different names as soon as they go to the Senate.
Yeah. There'll be a hybrid bill that'll come out that'll be combining the 2.
And that's another way, just the way that they do to cause confusion and diversion, right? And it's not supposed to be easy, and that's why we attempt this stuff. Again, we can either use the internet as lawn chairs to watch all this shit and have it really conveniently, displayed to us on our phones as we sit there and drink a beer in the backyard, watch a fire or whatever else boring crap we do, and we're not actually working. And then, we can use these tools to make it tougher for them to pull the wool over our eyes and for us to get stronger and smarter, for us to unite, collaborate, and kick the shit out of fuckers that are trying to tyrannize us in an electronic way.
Mm-hmm. And on the so it's going back to HR 8, so if two friends want to go hunting, and the one guy says, "Oh, I'd like to try your 30-06 instead of my 243 to go hunting some deer," this bill would then require them to do it through an FFL.
Yep.
No, there's nuance. So if this particular one went through, if you're standing next to each other, it would allow you to do that. If you wanted to take that gun and go away from your friend, yes, a transfer.
Now, we all heard the devil in the details sort of thing, but does it say what away means?
No, and that was one of the complaints, is that they intentionally, obviously, are vague as possible so that there is no way to enforce it, and that it can be interpreted either tyrannically or, they'll pass these kind of things like, oh, we put a vague word in there, so you don't have to be worried. Like, we just put this in here to persecute bad guys, but it's also open enough that law enforcement can use discretion and they don't have to use it against you.
Okay.
But no, so Lockjaw is saying, how hard can it be to build a reliable criminal database? I've heard of Alan Corwin and some others suggest that instead of a 4473, which basically is an attempt by the federal government, the FBI specifically, to have this accumulated list of every person that's ever done anything wrong or whatever. And then every time somebody calls in, their background is checked against this giant database of everything. And another option, or an alternative way to run a prohibitive purchaser, like whatever you'd call that, like barrier, would be to have a wanted list, like they had at the post offices back in the old days, and they have the FBI have a wanted list. And if someone wanted to purchase a firearm through a 44 FFL, the FFL would call the FBI and ask, is this particular person on the wanted list or on the don't buy list? And then the FBI would say yes or no, and then the person would proceed or not. That's an alternative. I don't think it's a better way. We've had discussions before on whether that tact to suggest here's a different carrot than the carrot you're using right now is a way to deal with the antis. I personally would rather say let's remove the carrot, and that's our compromise. You have a carrot, which we suggest you can't justify as working, so let's get rid of the carrot. The idea of a wanted list that you compare purchasers with is a different carrot. So it's still a government, bureaucracy that does that, and it's still a requirement to possess a property, just in a different way. And I guess the idea is if if they're doing this and you suggest that you've got some potential to wiggle your way out of the tyranny when they release their boots on their one neck and they try to step on it with the other boot. I don't know if I described it that well, but that's the concept of the keep track of who's bad guy instead of trying to keep track of everyone. Does that make sense? Like right now they're trying to keep track of everyone. There's the concept of why don't you just keep track of the bad guys?
Right. But people that have been in federal penitentiaries since 1950.
I think it comes down to big state or individual. So if you're an individual and you're okay with other individuals, then what do you care? But if you are of the type where you think the state can do it all, then why wouldn't you think the state can simply keep track of it? They can keep track of everybody in jail, and they can keep track of everybody in the government's jobs. They can keep track of everybody on government pension. They can keep track of everybody in the military. Why can't they just keep track of everybody? And then it's just easier, right? There's those people, I think, and those people are going to do everything they can possibly do to strip responsibility from themselves and give it to somebody else so that they can just at least perceive that they get to hang out. They don't have to worry about nothing. I guess they can continually be taken care of.
Gotcha.
I don't know.
Yeah. a part of what's got me so shell shocked is I'm literally leaving town for the next 2 days, first thing in the morning. So I hear this late at night, and it's like, holy shit, like the world's falling apart, and I gotta leave in 6 hours.
Well, I called it HR 1112 tomorrow ? Because I wasn't really sure after listening to it if it is going to go on tomorrow. So I'm going to end it here at some point. We don't need to go on for a marathon. Right. But no one joined the Daily Gun Show, and I had a bit of energy in me, and I did want to do something here, if nothing else, just to follow up on the stuff we saw earlier. Because really, before we did a 2-hour show, and it's just me and Night Strike basically listening to them and yell every once in a while. But we really didn't. Yeah, we didn't have much to actually talk about, so I figured we'd have a quick show here to just put it out there again on the list of videos that are out there. And anybody who's got a follow-up can feel free to leave comments, links to their follow-up, or if they saw something good that relates to this, please use the comments here or on Gunstream or on GunTube as the guntube.org as the way to add notes so that others can find it. And let's see. General saying, legally armed America, a channel demonstrates on a calendar that it's possible for HR 112 to keep a perpetual loop of apply, wait, expires before the okay, then reapply. And that I think is the best way to summarize what I was saying, is that they figured out a way that if they move the dates just a bit, and it is possible in some states to create a bureaucracy that doesn't allow firearms to be transferred. So doom on them for being such dicks that they create structures so that they can implement little gotchas like that, two separate independent things, are like two magnets. They just can't touch each other. So they'll create things like this. It's the ultimate 4D chess.
That would be extremely interesting to see if this ever did get through the Senate and signed into law, what the Supreme Court would think of that. It'd be interesting to hear that hearing. You know what I'm saying?
No, I understand their thought, but let's think of it as a thought exercise and not wish it to actually ever happen through the Senate. I don't want to
No. I'm not saying that I want it to. I'm just saying it would be interesting to hear that argument in the Supreme Court.
Yeah, seriously, because I don't know if that would. Well,
because they would create a backdoor gun control, a backdoor, no Second Amendment via that bureaucracy, and because of that, that would be, a violation of the Second Amendment.
Yeah, but I don't know. Whenever you set up a situation like where there's a cause and effect, I guess when you have this that happens and then that, and then it allows something third thing to happen. They don't just necessarily say clear the playing field. They might just say, here's a situation where these can never happen again. And that doesn't cause freedom. That just creates another layer of burden that we have to work around. So I hear you, but I just don't know. I don't know if it would have like a clean option as like a result, or if it would be just two messy options, or if it would be, I don't know.
Well, I think that the reason why I would think it'd be an interesting argument in front of the Supreme Court would be that scenario right there is 99.9% of the time, technically, let's say it works, okay, as far as how they're wanting to use it. But what if there's that 1% or the 0.1% of the time that it could literally cause to stop a transfer completely? Then at that point, it is unconstitutional. It all depends on how. It just depends on how conspiracy theorists they want to think in the Supreme Court.
Or like how like Vulcan or whatever the word would be, but like like you're saying, like, well, on February 29th this would happen, so therefore you can never create a situation that this could happen. Or would they just say, like, you can't do it in February or something? But I don't think they can do that. Go ahead.
Just as a quick note, and maybe this has already been done, but I put on the main page of Gun Channels a link to the two different bills. So if somebody, let's say in 24 hours, if it changes, can post just a link to the change, or if it's still the same thing, just simply repost what I put there, just so we can keep it at the top, because I know we can't easily do a sticky.
Yeah, well, guess what? We have a whole place called Every Second Matters where we have those two. But yeah, we'll keep it.
Well, right, but the main page is where everybody lands, and then they kind of go off to their thing from there.
Right. Yeah, we don't have stickies. But that's a good idea. I'll be watching it because if it is going to happen tomorrow, I'm doing the 2A workshop, so I'll be live anyway. But I'll definitely, title the show "Let's Go Watch Them Ruin Our Freedom" or whatever.
I'm just trying to think of people who either may not have heard of it or may not realize what it really is at this point, have a spot that they can immediately, if they have the time, go read it, at least hit the summary, and then try to look for where the teeth in the bill. Because not everybody may hear this or have heard your earlier discussion.
Yeah, I think we should all get in the habit of reading these things, at least browsing them. It's all kind of gibberish, right? You got to read them a bunch of times to kind of get used to what to blow over and what to ignore. So best thing, keep reading them.
No.
Eventually,
if you read the whole thing, Ghost reads the whole thing, Sarge does, Night Strike does, and then I do. You guys may see things that I didn't see.
Right.
Well, I think what it also does is we might interpret it 5 different ways. And that's a scary thing, because if there's 5 people in this room that are reading the same bill and we're all interpreting it 5 different ways, then how many more ways could it be interpreted? And that's where it gets very scary.
That's the problem.
Yeah, seriously.
And that's what I've always said about it's the person reading it. You have the people that we get in there. We want to their interpretation needs to be our interpretation.
Yeah, and the thing that always scares me the most about any bill is what I call soft or mushy words. Things can,
and I think
by their essence, they can mean 10 different things.
And I think they intentionally put those in there, especially when they want the law to be much stronger than they can get, so that they can impose it, loosely. But
yeah, remember I'm not speaking to you guys, because everyone knows, this room knows, and probably listening. But these bills are written by 150 different lawyers. Every single word is looked at under a microscope for a specific reason. So they don't just throw these things together in a day and say, "Oh, here's our bill." No, these things are written for a specific reason with the wording.
Yeah, that's why they have them available as soon as they want them, because they've made them.
That's right.
Put all the time in already to do it perfectly, or whatever they think perfectly.
If it seems like it's vague, it's intentionally vague,
Yeah. Especially at the beginning, before it even gets out of committee, because they want negotiating room for when it hits the floor, and then when there's a combination bill between the House and the Senate.
Well, I'm going to let... Oh, I just muted.
I appreciate you indulging me. Thank you, guys.
No, thanks for jumping in and asking us to clarify, because, again, who knows who's jumping in at where. This is fairly recent. I'm going to retitle it from tomorrow, ? Like that, because, again, I'm not trying to incite panic or anything. I just want to create awareness, and I wasn't quite sure if it is going on tomorrow, so be aware. And I was going to say I'll let Night Strike put his last thoughts out there from that last Gun Channels post, and then we'll wrap it up. Ghost has his show tomorrow. Stay tuned for that. I'll do the 2A workshop tomorrow. Night Strike has Hit or Miss tomorrow.
Well, there's a good chance that everyone's show tomorrow is going to be about this, possibly.
Possibly.
Yeah.
So what was that last post you put there?
Well, I was talking a little bit back and forth with John and DP Feither, and basically it's the whole it deals with the whole bureaucracy of a backdoor, literally a ban on guns, and it is it's if they do that, that's a constitutional crisis, because every senator, every congressman, even the president has to speak. It has to they have to swear an oath of office, and the oath of office, on no matter what position, they are to uphold and defend the Constitution. And if they're trying to restrict via bureaucracy or any other way an amendment of the Constitution, they are violating their oath of office.